This is Rob Kramarz of Intelliversity again, and we have here George Eiskamp and Andy Hibbs of Ground Metrics. And as I said in the first segment, this is not an offer to sell securities nor a solicitation for investment. What this is a training video for investors and entrepreneurs. This is a very fascinating company because of the very high level of investor interest that they're achieving so far. And so I wanted to ask you a kind of extension of the first segment, which is, you know, in your opinion, what is it about your team that you think investors find so attractive?
I think to begin with that we have relevant experience. I think that's something investors always look for. Have you worked in this space before? Have you done startups before? Are you versed in the technology? And then beyond that, we're a diverse team. So I think that Andy and I have purposely set out to not force fit the founders into roles that are desirable to us, but to actually put people in the right place to set ourselves up for success. And we've moved people around as we've had to be able to achieve the right team. And I don't know how transparent it is. It probably comes across in sort of subtle ways that are hard to put your finger on, but we get along very well and we think alike. We think a lot alike, which isn't always common between scientists and businessmen.
That probably shows up in some ways. What do you think, Andy?
Well, I was thinking this when you said it from the way the investors know the team, and they really just know George at this point. So I think it comes down to his great skill as a communicator. Hopefully I contributed to that, but I would say mostly it's George's presentation, which your viewers should pay close attention to at this point.
Well, they know of you because I speak about you, so they know you through me.
I mean, the things that George has said are quite correct, I think. It's not usually expound upon our virtues quite as much as this, but I think he's right. We have a good team and we do fit together well.
Yeah. I mean, just my commentary would be that his ability to present well is a function of the foundation that he's standing on. And the foundation he's standing on is the team. The knowledge that you and your technical team bring about the technology in the industry is what he has relied upon. And that shows up in his confidence, and then confidence in turn generates interest.
Very much so. I'm not needing to make stuff up. Andy keeps me very well informed.
It's a big difference, yeah. Yeah.
We have a good line of communication, and that probably comes through very clearly, even if we're not in the same room at the same time.
Yeah. So, now how long have you guys known each other?
3 to 4 years. We pretty much work together every day, every working day since then.
Every working day?
Well,
some non-working days.
Email on the weekend as well. But.
Are you both married?
Yeah.
Do your wives get along with each other? Do they even know each other?
We don't really socialize at all. Yeah.
They've met at the airport.
Yeah, just at the airport when we've got back from trips. Yeah.
Now, this is not on the script, but do your wives support your heavy work schedule and your ambitions?
Very much so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think my wife's pretty happy. She's a stay-at-home mom, and she's happy that I have to go and navigate the traffic and do all the work stuff. So she knows if I get back late, it's because I have to. It's not out of choice, but a necessity.
It was self-selection at some point for me. I was doing startup stuff when I met my wife, so she knew how enthusiastic I was about it, and I was clear this was my passion, so I'd always be doing this. So if she wasn't supportive, she probably wouldn't have said yes.
Got it. At what point did you decide to work together on this new company? How did that happen? I know you worked together at the prior company at Quasar Federal Systems.
Right.
But how did you choose George to be your CEO?
Well, he was a natural choice. George was heading up our new product introduction group anyway, and this was clearly the best product we've come up with ever, in fact, and certainly obviously at that time. So George was just a natural choice. That was always the intention when we brought him in, was to do those kind of functions and have him in the CEO slot once we got everything together.
Right. It's interesting. What we see here, something I've always been attracted to, which is a case where the CEO and the CTO worked together for many years at another company. So they already know they can trust each other. that they work together, and that they don't, run into each other. They're complementary. Was there any point where you looked at each other and said, "I can trust you"? Was there any event that occurred that you took as a symbol, "I can trust this guy"?
I think for me there was more reinforcing events. Very early on working together, one of the other senior managers told me that one of the reasons people enjoy working with Andy so much is because of how trustworthy he is. And people are comfortable with verbal agreements they make with him, that they'll be honored. So I started looking at things through that lens, and then through my time working together, I've seen it. Both in terms of decisions we were making that involved other personnel, and how things unfolded between the two of us. He's always stood behind what he has said.
Thanks. Andy?
Well, when I got to know George, I sort of gauged people by asking them questions, and the answers were always direct, totally non-political. They were always completely consistent as well. They weren't sort of made up on the spot. George always has a big picture view, and his answers are always consistent with that.
Was there one point, Andy, when you said to yourself, "Wow, I can trust this guy"? Or was it just a long...
The nature of the recommendation made George seem very trustworthy up front.
I see.
So that was kind of... There wasn't really a lot of questioning of that at any time. It was really whether he was a good fit for the job.
So how did you discover, just to move this question further then, how did you discover that you were complementary in leadership style? In fact, are you complementary in leadership style?
We debated this a little bit, actually. And I think that we are complementary. I think lots of times when people think complementary, the first thing that comes to mind is very different. And upon some discussion and further thought, I'm not sure that I agree with that, because when you get people that are very different, you get antagonism between them. You end up getting compromises that maybe aren't very well liked by either party. I think that we're complementary in the sense that we think a lot alike. We have the same perspectives on the world and how to get where we're trying to go. But we complement each other in terms of counterbalancing each other's optimism and skepticism.
And yeah, we can switch positions pretty easily. We're both very optimistic, but we're both careful to read between the lines of what we think we know. So one can immediately switch to being the skeptic.
Oh,
we can exchange roles just naturally. And it's a good way of debating out a question. It's not like, it sounds artificial, but it isn't. It just naturally falls out that way. If I think I've got something really great, George will start questioning why we think it's so good, and then vice versa. He wants to know more about it if we have negative views. So it seems to just flow very naturally that way.
So sometimes we find that one of the partners is very good at seeing the big picture, and the other partner is really, I call you partners loosely, and the other partner is better at the execution of getting from point A to B, from B to C, and from C to D. Do you have that kind of difference in abilities and perspective also?
In my mind, he's certainly the big picture visionary, and I'm the implementer, the driver. And it works very well. I've worked with other big thinkers, and they aren't always as grounded in reality, which makes it very difficult from the execution perspective. I like to under-promise and over-deliver, and that's very tough if somebody is, off in the stratosphere somewhere. But Andy's got a really good sense of budget, psychology, timelines, etc. So even though he's the big thinker, we're able to put plans together that are sensible and we can execute effectively.
Fascinating. This is Intelliversity with Ground Metrics. We'll be back in just a minute.